Hi, welcome to Ladies of Another View. I'm Beck, and we have a full show today. Two guests that are both going to join us on Zoom, and we're actually going to start in right away. But first, I want to introduce today's hosts. We have Kendi, Renee, and as always, Mary. And as a guest today, we have Father Dominic Bouck. He is a chaplain at University of Mary. And before that, he was a chaplain at St. Mary's High School and an associate pastor at Cathedral of the Holy Spirit. And I asked him to join us today to talk about Senate Bill 2180 because it has to do with the seal of the confessional, and it would oblige priests and pastors, anybody in the confessional, to violate the seal of that confession in cases where there was suspected child abuse under penalty of imprisonment or heavy fines. And there are actually 5 sponsors to the bill, 3 Republicans and 2 Democrats. Welcome to the show, Father Dominic.
Hey, thanks for having me.
What's your take on this bill?
Well, I think, it's best to approach anything with kind of a careful examination of what's going on and not to just like jump to conclusions or just take things as, oh, this makes me angry. Now I'm, upset all day, but just really look at what's going on. Obviously, behind all of it is the terrible sin and the terrible crime of sexual abuse, and how, obviously in the headlines, the Catholic Church has had its own examination of conscience as to how we've dealt with it. But I think that the whole country has a serious need to examine how we look at the problem of sexual abuse and legitimate and helpful ways to deal with it. It's such a terrible crime and offense against those who undergo it. And certainly, it's the position of the church and the position of all good men and women that those who are a threat to other people and those who have done great harm to individuals should be held accountable and should be treated with justice according to the law, both for the victim's sake and also for the protection of its citizens. So, of course, the state has an obligation to look at how do we protect vulnerable individuals, how do we deal justly with criminal activity. And so in that sense, we should support in general good things that seek to protect vulnerable individuals and again, to punish criminals according to the law. That being said, this particular bill is not particularly helpful in the sense that it goes directly against, the Constitution of the United States and the Bill of Rights, and also against a legal precedent which has been upheld in this country since its founding, a legal precedent which precedes even the founding of the United States by several hundred years, by at least like 1,500 years at the very least, in the sense, at least since the beginning of Christianity, that even in the early church there was some semblance of the sacrament of confession where individuals made a confession of their sins, but that wasn't necessarily seen in a public view, that would have been done possibly privately, and then penances would have been acted out publicly. But nevertheless, especially since the 400s and 500s, the church has held very clearly that what's said in the confessional stays in the confessional very, very strictly. In fact, the church reserves its highest penalties, excommunication, automatically for a priest who tells of one's sins out in the public, who connects a sin to a particular individual. And so as a priest, it's a very serious thing. But even more importantly, it's for the individual. It's a sacrament of healing where you can come with your sins, what you've done, and in the bounteous and immeasurable mercy of Christ, he washes away those sins. Obviously, all Christians agree on that aspect of the love of Christ, that he came down to earth to forgive our sins. And so when we go to him in the sacrament of confession, we confess to him through the ministry of the priest what we've done. And so these are the most sensitive and intimate details of our lives. And Jesus has a right to know them. The priest is the minister who is in a place to hear these sorts of things. But for the sake of the individual in the confessional, they need to have that confidence that what they say cannot be used against them in any way, not only not in a court of law, but also in any sort of manner that the priest can't even really approach them and talk about those sins after the confessional, that the sins, as I like to say, die in the confessional, right? They die on the cross with Christ. But this bill doesn't directly just target the Catholic sacrament of confession. it targets all spiritual conversations. And so we wouldn't want to put any sort of ministerial individual on the line for saying things that an individual wouldn't want to be said in any other context. That someone's spiritual advisor needs to be someone that's separate, and that's a completely safe space with no exceptions, that they can talk about things freely without fear that you automatically trigger something, and that minister or priest or advisor automatically has to go to the legal authorities. If we do that, and the church is very clear in terms of the sacramental seal, there's no exceptions to it. Because if there is exceptions, then immediately people are going to be suspicious of it. So I can't say that nothing will be said out of this confessional, except for, and then at the minute someone hears except for, then they're like, well, I don't feel safe in talking to this person about the most intimate details of my life. So it's as far away to say as possible that the church isn't concerned about sexual abuse and wants to do everything in its power to remedy this horrible crime. And in fact, after a lot of the revelations about kind of sexual abuse within the Catholic Church, I think the church has responded as well as any institution in safeguarding vulnerable members of her society, and doing all sorts of training and accountability and et cetera, and emphasizing the fact that we do in fact need to go to legal authorities in cases where sexual abuse is suspected, and that's a good thing. Nevertheless, in the sacred space of the confessional, that's not possible.
And so basically what you're saying, I mean, you are a legal mandated reporter, right? But the exception would be in the confessional when somebody is confessing their sins. But if you suspected child abuse, you would report it, right?
That's right. So we're mandatory reporters for sexual abuse against minors in ordinarily, but we can't the protection of the seal admits of no exceptions. That's pretty clear according to church law. And so, I mean, any good priest, any priest at all would, as you know, just would go to jail or suffer the consequences if the law were to be passed, and some sort of situation would arise in which he would have to be compelled to speak. He just can't. It's pretty simple. But what I just want to convey is it's out of a respect for all of the people who go to confession. You can imagine someone going to confession and speaking about sexual abuse and not wanting that to be known in any other forum whatsoever. And we can't have, from a legal perspective, some idea that I now have to, independent of what that person wants, go and talk about that.
All right, we only have a minute left, and one thing I was thinking about the bill is just the way Catholic confessions are going. People often go behind the screen, and so that would put the priest in a ridiculous situation where they would have to come around the screen, tackle the person down, and what would you do? Call the police? I've got somebody here for you. I mean, practically speaking,
it won't happen. That it won't get that far.
Well, no, it wouldn't. But I'm just saying that even as you look at the bill, that it doesn't have practical. And we only have 30 seconds. So what do you think about that?
Yeah, that would certainly. It sounds absurd, but yeah, that would never. That just would never happen. Which is the nice thing with the bill is just to know that I don't think that it's going to pass as is, but if it did, it's easy, and all Catholics can go to confession with the same confidence they had before that nothing will change. You know, the priest conceivably could get in legal trouble, but that he would never ever violate that seal of the confessional.
Right. I think that's important, that regardless of what happens with the bill, it's not going to happen anyways. Thank you so much, Father Bouck, for joining us. Yeah.
I appreciate it.
Thanks.
Thank you.
God bless your day.
Sorry to talk so much.
Bye.
All right.
We'll be right back.
We'll be right
after
back.
these
Yeah.
messages.
Okay. We'll be right back. We have more to talk about on other topics. We'll be right back after the break with Ladies of Another View on Back.
Capital City Restaurant Supply is your one-stop shop for quality restaurant products for the large to small kitchens. Commercial-grade restaurant and bar supplies, limb game processing equipment, refrigeration, dinnerware, and smallware. We sell everything including the kitchen sink from trusted manufacturers for the chef and all of us. Open to the public since 1971, we are veteran-owned and North Dakota proud. Let us take care of your restaurant and home kitchen needs today by visiting us at 1414 Interstate Loop in Bismarck or on the web at capitalcityrestaurantsupply.com.
Hi, I'm Dennis Haugen, along with my sons Andy and Mike, and we're showing our support for wind energy in North Dakota.
Wind energy has provided farmers like us with a steady stream of income that's not tied to the weather like crops and cattle are.
Another bonus is that wind farm owners are required to maintain the roads leading up to the turbines. Because of that, oftentimes these roads are the best in the county. Wind energy is good for landowners, it's good for the land, it's good for our economy, and it's good for North Dakota.
Are you a thrill seeker, sightseer, or day tripper? The Ford Bronco Sport SUV is built for you. Four Bears Casino is giving away a 2021 Ford Bronco Sport loaded with a ton of interior space, safari-style roof, smooth suspension for any terrain, and easy-to-clean surfaces. Qualify now just by playing your favorite slots at Four Bears Casino. Double points on Sundays. Also get in on Super Senior Wednesdays, slot turning Thursdays, and hot seats on Wednesdays and Thursdays. Spin into Four Bears Casino and Lodge for chances to win.
Some things in life are hard. That's why banking shouldn't be. Cornerstone Bank.
Heroes and Icons is now Cozy TV. Don't worry, you'll still get your favorite Beck News programming without changing the channel. Real people, real news, Beck News.
Welcome back to Ladies of Another View on Beck. We're going to move on to the topic of the cancel culture. There's so much that we could say about that, but I want to talk about one particular person who just was crushed by the cancel culture within 24 hours. You probably never heard of Ariel Pink. I had not heard of him, and he does the gentler side of indie rock. I've heard of indie rock. I don't listen to it. I don't know that much about it. But listen, first of all, let's find out who he is. I want you to see an example of some of his music. And this is a song he did in 2017. And he must be fairly popular because he had like 2 million views. Now, I kind of like that song, and it was the first one I found, and then I looked at some of his other songs, they're like really weird. So this is what happened to him. He went to that rally in Washington, D.C. on January 6th, and then he wrote about it. He had gone, attended, then he went back to his hotel room and took a nap. He had nothing to do with any protest. And, he says he's not political, but he did feel like he doesn't like the way the culture is going. Within 24 hours, social media blew up, everything blew up. He had a record label ready to go, and he was going to release a new album. And within 24 hours, they canceled. He says, if I don't have my record label, I can't go on concerts. In 24 hours, his entire career has been destroyed. So he appeared on Tucker Carlson because nobody else would allow him a format. And then the left made fun of him for being on Tucker Carlson. I saw one music magazine calling him and Tucker Carlson both parasites, but he has no voice now. Watch this little clip from Fox News.
Done anything, but these articles obviously placed me at the siege.
Yes.
Which I was not at. So, and of course I don't advocate for violence.
Of course not.
At all. in any walk of life.
And just to be clear, you committed no violence while in Washington.
Of course not. I mean, I was there for a peaceful rally, and that's all it was to me.
Yes.
And but there was no fact checking or anything like that. These 130 articles went out in the course of 24 hours, and just the backlash was just so they succumbed to cancel culture. So basically, that's.
So what did your label say after reassuring you they weren't going to drop you? What happened then?
Well, then 24 hours later, they wrote back saying that they texted me, telling me that they were going to go public and drop me at that point.
You're taking a huge risk coming on the show. Why are you doing it?
I don't have any other recourse. Like, what am I going to do? Like, am I going to be able to get my statement out in magazines? I mean, who's right now the narrative is being pushed, and there's not very many people that are going to let a counter narrative enter into the fold.
I think that is so sad.
It is.
He says he's been getting death threats. His life is just turned upside down. Music was a big part of his life. And he said not only is he getting death threats, but people are making fun of him. And he said, I attended the rally at the White House. And I went back to my hotel and took a nap. Case closed. He said, defending his politics, he said, this is what I voted against. I didn't vote so much for Trump as against the cancel culture. And this environment that's been blazing for about 4 years is about to ramp up and get even worse. I think we're seeing that.
Totally.
Because all he did was, like, now the message is, don't you dare have anything to do with Trump or we will destroy you.
Right. You know, I heard it was, oh gosh, months ago, just that threat towards anybody who was supporting Trump, that they would come after us. And I was kind of like, oh, yeah, right. But we're seeing that. And even myself, I mean, I'm just simple. I call myself Average Joe. I mean, I have lost all ability to communicate online. And people have sent me messages, not death threats, but messages of, I hate you, you're disgusting. And all I've done is just made posts of things that I believe in, and they've attacked me as a person. It's just crazy.
We're going to need more time on this subject. I can tell you that. Maybe we can hold this over, but because I have a lot to say. I have been in his shoes, okay? Going from a conservative to I'm not going to vote for Trump and trying to convince my friends not to vote for Trump. I've had death threats. I've had on Facebook documented, okay, my friends have seen it. I've taken screenshots of it. Just vicious, rabid stuff. And it wasn't just me. I don't know if you remember, there's a lot of examples of this, but David French, he wrote for the National Review. Do you remember him? Big guy, author, and he's a staunch conservative. And he spoke out against the policies of Trump, and his wife was threatened with rape, vicious, vicious attacks by the Trump people. So I'm telling you, this is not only a left, this is not a left thing at all. And we just had somebody on the show the other day that talked about the cancel culture, okay? He just got attacked on his Facebook page, okay? For even...
Are you talking about Michael Rectenwald?
I don't want to say any names.
Oh, okay.
Okay. This happens. And if you go off cue with any of these sides, they get vicious with you. Yeah. And so I just want to keep it fair and balanced because I know the left does it, but until you leave the circle that you're in, when you leave the circle you're in, try it once.
I have been critical of Trump.
But I'm telling you, if you try to convince your friends not to vote for Trump, just see how it goes. I have 5,000 friends on Facebook, and I'm telling you, it was vicious. Vicious.
I think the difference, too, is all 5,000 of them, you don't know those people. They're not your personal friends.
Well,
where on my Facebook, it's like they're my friends only.
Yeah.
And there's more respect there. So they're hiding behind the secrecy of they don't really know you.
Well,
just
like this,
you know what I'm saying?
Just like this guy, he doesn't know all these people.
Yeah, but look at Ariel
People get
Pink.
ugly.
He was ready to release an album. His whole career blew up.
Yeah.
I guess I don't know of any examples of a conservative's whole career.
Like the Bed Bath & Beyond, they're pulling his.
Yeah.
They're pulling his pillows. There's, I there's several department stores. I don't want to name them because I want to make sure that they're the right names. They're pulling their pillows and they're sending him a bunch of hate mail too. And that is so frustrating.
Like now you can't do business.
I can give you an example of people who have lost their jobs and quit.
So can I.
Because of this attack. Justin Amash is one. Trump himself is like, he is the master of the cancel culture. He does it to people and then they're silent. They usually go silent and they just won't say anything. So it's kind of a different situation, but it's the same.
Well, I can see the similarity that we're less we don't tolerate different views as well. But I think the cancel culture is coming big way from the left. But anyways, we actually have another guest coming on. We're going to talk with Brandy Pyle about the breastfeeding bill that we have in the North Dakota legislature right now.
So the topics are so varied.
We're jumping all around today. So we'll be right back with Ladies of Another View on Beck.
Jeez, what a mess. Look at that. There's roof stuff everywhere. It's so embarrassing. Ruins the neighborhood. Come on, humans. Let's get this fixed.
Don't let your roof go to the dogs. Call America's Best Contractors for your free estimate.
Need a new woof?
After checking with the rest, go with the best. America's Best Contractors. 258-2412. Online at americasbestcontractorsincorporated.com.
In southwestern and south central North Dakota, on any given day at any given moment, a Dakota Community Bank and Trust customer is logging in or signing on to do their online or mobile banking. We believe that community banking can blend both the past with down-home customer service in-house and the future with modern banking conveniences and technology for our customers anywhere, like here or here, all while honoring our long-standing tradition of community-first oriented banking here at Dakota Community Bank and Trust.
My wife was diagnosed with early stage Alzheimer's. We talked about it and we kind of decided we'd be a little bit proactive and try to start making provisions. So we started looking here, and Eventide worked out to be pretty much the perfect answer. I guess I didn't expect it to be so nice. The staff here are terrific. We enjoy it.
Beck News brings you real people and real news. Every weekday on KNDB, KNDM, and KRDK. Start your evening with the Dr. Duke Show at 4. Take a fresh look at current events with Ladies of Another View at 4:30. Go down the road with Joel at 5:30. Watch No Apologies with Becker at 9. Cap off your night with No Filter with Debbie at 10. Beck News. Real people, real news.
The professionals at Superior Glass provide residential and commercial glass installation and repair services in central and western North Dakota. Superior Glass is your source for stained glass projects, mirrors, windows, touchless and automated entry solutions. Stop by and see us at 3323 East Broadway in Bismarck or call us at 701-258-5600. Superior Glass, where you get superior service for less. Bye for now.
Welcome back to Ladies of Another View on Beck. We have with us via Zoom Representative Brandy Pyle, and she's representing, she's one of the co-sponsors of the bill 1105 that relates to breastfeeding in public. When I first heard about this, I thought, what the heck? You know,
do we need a law for that?
We all nursed our babies, and why is this even a law? Not only that, but it was turned down 2 years ago. It was voted down. And so I wanted to take a look into this and find out what exactly is going on. Welcome to the show, Brandy.
Well, thank you very much for having me. I appreciate the invite. So, House Bill 1105 deals with two sections of code. The first section is Chapter 12, and it has some language in there about corrections, parole, and probation. And then Chapter 23, which deals with health and safety. So, what the bill essentially does is remove the discrete language from the Century Code so that women are allowed to breastfeed as they see fit, and for the woman and the child to sit where they're authorized. So a lot of times, you can't have a child in a bar after a certain hour. So obviously that wouldn't apply in this case because the child wouldn't be authorized to be in the bar. But if you're sitting at the restaurant, if you're at the mall, you would be able to sit and nurse your child as you see fit.
So I'm curious as to what the current wording is with the Century Code that would make it difficult for women to nurse in a public space.
Yeah, and I have that
You
with
can paraphrase
me here.
it.
So in Chapter 23, if the woman acts in a discreet and modest manner, the woman may breastfeed her child in any location, public or private, where the woman and the child are authorized to be. So it really kind of that modest thing. So if somebody wanted to ask you to get up and move, you would have to.
Wow.
And the other thing that the bill does, which I'm hoping the committee will kind of amend, is they did put a little penalty on it, an infraction if you ask somebody to leave. Just kind of in everything, you want people to do the right thing for the right reason rather than always putting a penalty on everything.
Since women have been breastfeeding forever, and this is
Normal.
2021,
Yeah.
it's a surprise. It almost, at first I thought, is this one of those laws on the book that everybody forgot about and is so archaic? But it's been an active issue. The fact that why was it turned down 2 years ago?
2 years. I was the co-sponsor on it 2 years ago, and I know I voted in favor of passing the bill. I believe it had something to do with the penalty. So that's why I'm hoping that part comes off, and I think we'll see that language kind of hopefully pull through. But there's a lot of times each session we go through and kind of do some cleanup bills. Over 2 sessions we cleaned up the agriculture sections. We've done stuff in education. Even one last year that took everyone kind of by surprise is we had a bill where you couldn't leave your car idling without a driver in it. And everybody has auto start. I mean, with the weather that we have here, it's something that we just kind of do to keep the cars warmed up and get them ready to go because of all the computer systems. So I just think this is a simple cleanup bill. I don't see any major battles with it. So it's been a good one.
Well, the fact that it was voted down 2 years ago, apparently would have been a cleanup bill then too.
But it was
the 1,000.
It was the penalty.
Right.
It
So
was the penalty.
they're removing that $1,000 penalty, right?
Yep. So I'm hoping the committee will remove that. When I signed on, I talked to the prime sponsor of it, and that was one thing I asked for is, can we consider this? This is important that we don't have a penalty for people in their place of business. Most places are very accommodating. I, remember nursing 3 out of my 4 kids. I am an adoptive mom, so I always tease my oldest that, she came potty trained because she was 5. So I mean, we've been through it, and I would say most mamas want to sit kind of by themselves a little bit quieter where they can sit on and focus on baby or not have baby distracted too, right? Because they always kind of want to see what's going on when they get a little bit older or when they're learning how. It just takes a little bit more energy. So I would say most people are pretty kind-hearted about this. So like I said, it should be a pretty simple bill.
Should sail through, and then we can join the 21st century, right?
Yes. I thought you were going to say we can join the nursing mom.
No. I think that's all behind us.
I have been surprised sometimes online when I've seen conversations about breastfeeding, how crazy some people get about it, and they connect it to something sexual. I just like, what? You're feeding your child.
Right.
You know, this should not be sexual in any way.
Well, there's always perverts out there. I mean, let's face it, this is America.
But
it's
women,
the land of the fruits and nuts.
Women and men.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So there are people that that do see that, and that's the gross part about it. I nursed 4 kids, and I was very discreet and modest about it, and I still believe everyone should be modest.
Yeah.
I don't agree with some of these people. They do it almost to like a dig, like almost a dig at a restaurant to do it. I'm going to do it because I can.
Right.
Those people bother me, and they give nursing mothers a bad name.
Yeah.
They need to knock it off, and that's what happened at Chick-fil-A in Fargo last year. It was it just got ridiculous.
Well, there's that risk, and Brandy and I talked about that on the phone, that what are you going to do if somebody is basically an exhibitionist, but I'm nursing a baby.
Right, and that's part of it.
Yeah, what are you going to do then?
But you know, isn't it kind of a double standard where like you stand at the grocery store line and you just look at the magazines on the front of, you know, where you're in the, I mean, it's like soft porn.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But a mom can't show any skin if she's breastfeeding her child, you know, it's like, well, and people are practically naked on TV.
Right.
And but your mom can't show a little skin breastfeeding her child. It's so crazy.
But it's kind of like, I had friends over from Paris, actually, when I lived in South Dakota, and we're down on the beach. It was a river beach. But anyway, she starts taking her clothes off, and it's like, wait, you can't do that. This is America. And it's like, so it's just a matter of our country doesn't.
Our culture.
Our culture is very conservative and
grateful.
Right.
I would add to, you know, a lot of times when I see in legislation, we just have to have the conversation and understand the why. Why is breastfeeding important? Why is, you know, and some ladies can't, some ladies choose not to, totally fine. And they shouldn't be ridiculed for their choice and how they feed their child either. Very adamant about that. As long as the child's getting the proper nutrients and is happy, healthy baby, you know, it does not matter. But we do have to have those conversations, and I think a lot of times when I talk to people about legislation, it's like, let's sit down at the kitchen table and have that true conversation. Let's have that open, honest conversation and understand each other's point of view. And in this section, or this bill, the 1105, I think that is kind of the same way as to why nursing is important, why, you know, bottle feeding is important. What does the baby need to grow, and why, you know, how does their brains develop, and why do they need the extra fats and everything along with that section. So,
you know, it is important because talk about the culture. We used to have a culture that was uncomfortable with breastfeeding because when I had children, both my mother and mother-in-law are like, well, you're not going to do that around people.
Right.
And I said, well, if I come and visit and I have to go sit in a room by myself all the time, that's not going to work very well.
Yeah.
And they just got used to the idea that I had a blanket over me.
Yes.
It was a little infant.
Yeah.
And they got used to it, but it made them uncomfortable because they came from a generation where women were actually bullied and harassed and convinced that the bottle was better.
Right.
Yeah.
And so a lot of them didn't nurse. And so all the more reason really to encourage mothers to nurse, because it really is, if you can do it, if it works out, it's a wonderful, it's a natural source of nutrition for the babies.
Yeah.
Very good for babies.
and they have cute clothes too. I mean, even from when
now
my,
they do.
you know, my youngest is 10 and there's all my nieces are 4 and younger, and my sisters have the cutest outfits, and they're like, oh, look, Brandy, you know, this is super easy.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
It's awesome how our culture is shifting more towards the more natural side of things and encouraging us to do what God has designed us to do.
Yeah.
Love it.
Yeah, I forgot. Yeah, so I have daughters and daughter-in-laws that have had babies, and they've got really cute outfits where you can wear a dress and nobody even knows. You just have a little flap. Thank you, Brandy, very much for taking time out from all the hearings. Yeah, I appreciate it.
Yeah,
so,
thanks for everything you do up there.
Yeah.
You're adorable.
Thank you.
Okay,
Thank you.
We will be right back on Ladies of Another View on Beck.
Howdy folks, it's the Caroline Cafe. I reckon it's time you're due for a hearty meal. So saddle up for the day with one of our Hey Bussin' breakfast homemade soups. Fill your grill at our salad bar, sink your teeth into our famous Caroline burger and barbecue ribs. Top it off with spur rattling pie with a comb roll that's sure to put a smile on even the toughest outlaws. Shake the dirt off the boots each night and warm up with the gang. Tell them about it, Stacy.
I can't wait to see you at the county line.
Since opening in Hebron in 1940, Dakota Community Bank and Trust has been your hometown bank. Our mission has been to provide modern banking convenience with old-fashioned hometown service. We've grown with the communities we serve through year-round events, countless sponsorships, and nearly 7,000 hours of volunteering each year. Learn more about our 80-year history at dakotacommunitybank.com.
Jeez, what a mess. Look at that. There's roof stuff everywhere. It's so embarrassing. Ruins the neighborhood. Come on, humans. Let's get this fixed.
Don't let your roof go to the dogs. Call America's Best Contractors for your free estimate.
Need a new woof?
After checking with the rest, go with the best. America's Best Contractors. 258-2412. Online at americasbestcontractorsincorporated.com.
For the greatest selection and full menu offering, it's the Four Seasons Restaurant and Ice Cream Parlor in Garrison. Succulent sandwiches, big breakfasts served all day, and delicious desserts. Easy access in and out for campers and RVs. The Four Seasons Restaurant at the top of Main Street, Garrison.
Some things in life are hard. That's why banking shouldn't be. Cornerstone Bank.
Welcome back to Ladies of Another View on Beck. We've been jumping around a lot today. We started out with Father Dominic Bauk talking about the bill that pertains to the seal of the confessional, and also Ariel Pink, an indie rock artist who had his career blow up overnight because he went to the peaceful part of the Trump rally. And then we just talked about the breastfeeding bill with Brandy Pyle. And so for this next segment, I just want to introduce what's going to happen tomorrow at the inauguration. It's going to be different than anyone we've ever had before, really relying heavily on it being virtual. There will be 21,000 National Guard troops, so it's going to be an armed encampment. And we'll have, the theme is America United. We've been bringing up a lot of things lately that has not really been uniting. And so we have to recognize that we go forward with a troubled heart. We need to go forward. We need to do our best. We need to find that zest for life and the reason for living, and not just give up completely, but go forward with our eyes open. So, you know, how do you guys feel about, you can talk about anything. We can talk about the inauguration. If you want to talk about one of the other segments, go ahead.
I'll just touch on the inauguration.
Okay.
I remember when President Obama was elected, oh gosh, and I was so heavy inside. I was not excited. But you know, it wasn't the best 4 years, but life did go on. And I am trying to maintain that hope that even though there is this fear inside, that things ultimately will be okay, because there's good people in the world, there's good people in America, and ultimately it comes down to us as citizens to stand up and to do the right thing. So I'm hopeful. So.
I love that. That's a good, positive attitude to have about everything, right? Instead of being depressed and fearful.
Yeah.
Well, I would love to talk about that too, but I really wanted to read a statement my pastor wrote concerning the bill that the priest was on earlier with, because we didn't have time for that, because I thought it was good to have another perspective from my pastor. And this is what he said about it. He said it was counterproductive. It's destructive of privacy rights of individuals, as well as destructive of the pastoral counseling ministry of the church. And then he mentioned that in North Dakota, we already have these type of reporting laws with suspected child abuse. But he said, it seems that the driving assumption of this modification to the existing law is that the spiritual advisor would not try to help the person being counseled confront and deal with his or her sin. Like, you know, that's what they're there for, to help these people deal with their sin, and that they must be forced to do so by law. And that's what they're in the ministry for. Ultimately, this is a direct attack upon the pastoral ministry of the church, which seeks to help those in need. It would also discourage the sinner from seeking help in confronting and overcoming his or her sin. And then he just went on to say that in the United States, we expect to exercise our religion, including going to confession and having spiritual counseling, without government invading our privacy. So I thought that was well and balanced.
Right, yeah. Excellent points.
Yeah, I totally agree, and I appreciate what he's saying. And I agree, and I always get nervous with the government when they're trying to get involved more with our lives. But I think there has to be an addressing of how do we properly take care of people. And this is the thing that I'm most concerned about. In Arizona, there's actually a major lawsuit against the Mormon Church, and it's because of sex abuse that was occurring by a member in a congregation who had gone to their bishop, who's equal to a pastor or a priest, and it was not reported. They called a lawyer for the church, but they did not report it, and so the abuse continued within this family, and this man eventually abused almost all of his children, one of them being an infant. And those are the things that concern me. I know that we hear the word, we want to help people who want to change their lives, but how are we really helping them, and how are we helping the victims in this? Because this family, those kids' lives have been negatively impacted for a long time. And I don't know at what point he had gone in to make a confession, but it was before his last child was born, and that last child was abused, and nothing was done to stop it. And so that is my concern, is what are we going to do? What is the answer to this so that it does stop, that they do receive help? I don't know.
The pastor, when I spoke with him this morning, off the record, he told me this. He's from California, and he had an incident where somebody in his church had come to him about sexual abuse in the family. And the pastor said, well, you know, I'm going to have to report this. So I want you to turn yourself in. Because I guess in California, just as North Dakota, they do have to report it. So it's kind of confusing.
Well, the question is whether it was done under the seal of the confession, when they're confessing their sins and they're guaranteed privacy. And the reality is, if they know they're going to get turned in, they're not going to come forward. So is society going to be a safer or less safe place? I don't know what the story is, but it just sounds weird that he continued to sexually abuse his family members, which is just a heinous crime. It's just as evil as can be, and damages those poor children. Like, where was there nobody else around? Like, why wasn't this reported? Because if a priest or pastor or any kind of member of the clergy knows about sexual abuse, they are required to report it, and nobody has a problem with that. It's just when somebody's coming to confess their sin. And I did an article on this a couple years ago when California was looking at the law, and I interviewed 4 different priests, and one was Monsignor Rossetti, who'd been a priest for 35 years, and he says he's never had anybody come and confess that, because typically they're in denial and they don't come forward. And so you would want, it would be good if they did come forward and somebody could talk to them and try to get them to turn themselves in, or certainly stop what they're doing.
Right.
Yeah. Agree.
But he says they're in denial, and they're usually narcissists, and they don't care about other people, so we're left with that too.
And I still think part of it is, you know, more government getting involved with our religion. They don't belong. They don't belong in our religion. You know, they always talk about the separation of church and state. Of course, we all understand that that means that they couldn't mandate a certain church, you know, when the United States was founded. But anyway, they talk about the separation of church and state, but yet they're trying to, work their way into the church. And if it's sexual abuse this time, it just opens a door that it could be, well, what other sin could it be? I robbed a bank, just big sins, little sins, any of them. Are they going to go one step further, make everything mandatory? And so it kind of makes people kind of fall away from the church, and I think that's the ultimate goal for a communist or socialist government, is to get people to get away from their faith, no matter what faith it is.
I want to touch on that because, and this is kind of a little squirrel here, forgive me for that, but the separation of church and state, this idea that perhaps there could be a movement to cause people to step away from their faith, to not participate. I mean, we've seen that this year with limiting people's ability to gather as a religious community. I mean, how many people now are distanced so much from God because they do not gather together anymore? And so I know that we're talking about this issue of confession, but really the state, our government leaders, some of them really are aimed at destroying the faith of us as people.
And when Thomas Jefferson talked about the wall of separation, he called it the wall of separation between church and state. It was to protect religion, so that government was not infringing upon religion.
Or mandate a certain government religion.
Correct, right. So they weren't allowed to mandate a religion like in China. China has taken over. Do you know if you're under 18 years old, it's against the law for you to go into a church?
Wow.
That's the communist country. The government doesn't belong in religion, because more often than not, they just don't belong there. So
my sister's meeting, they left their church that they loved, but because of all of this, they left this church in Boston, and they met with a Korean church, mostly Koreans, in a house. And she said, it was odd. I felt like I was in China, the underground church,
Okay.
But it was
things
good.
are changing, but some things need to stay the same, like our churches. Okay, well, during the next segment, we have the lighter side, and we'll be right back with Ladies of Another View on Beck.
Howdy, folks. It's a Caroline Cafe. I reckon it's time you're due for a hearty meal. So saddle up for the day with one of our Hey Bussin' breakfast homemade soups. Fill your grill at a salad bar. Sink your teeth into our famous Caroline burger and barbecue ribs. Top it off with spoon rattling pie with a cum roll that's sure to put a smile on even the toughest outlaws. Shake the dirt off the boots each night and warm up with the gang. Tell them about it, Stacy.
I can't wait to see you at the county line.
Hi, I'm Dennis Haugen, along with my sons Andy and Mike, and we're showing our support for wind energy in North Dakota.
Wind energy has provided farmers like us with a steady stream of income that's not tied to the weather like crops and cattle are.
Another bonus is that wind farm owners are required to maintain the roads leading up to the turbines. Because of that, oftentimes these roads are the best in the county. Wind energy is good for landowners, it's good for the land, it's good for our economy, and it's good for North Dakota.
Capital City Restaurant Supply is your one-stop shop for quality restaurant products for the large to small kitchens. Commercial-grade restaurant and bar supplies, limb game processing equipment, refrigeration, dinnerware, and smallware. We sell everything including the kitchen sink from trusted manufacturers for the chef and all of us. Open to the public since 1971, we are veteran-owned and North Dakota proud. Let us take care of your restaurant and home kitchen needs today by visiting us at 1414 Interstate Loop in Bismarck or on the web at capitalcityrestaurantsupply.com.
My wife was diagnosed with early stage Alzheimer's. We talked about it, and we kind of decided we'd be a little bit proactive and try to start making provisions. So we started looking here, and Eventide worked out to be pretty much the perfect answer. I guess I didn't expect it to be so nice. The staff here are terrific. We enjoy it.
The professionals at Superior Glass provide residential and commercial glass installation and repair services in central and western North Dakota. Superior Glass is your source for stained glass projects, mirrors, windows, touchless and automated entry solutions. Stop by and see us at 3323 East Broadway in Bismarck or call us at 701-258-5600. Superior Glass, where you get superior service for less. Bye for now.
Now is the best time to plan for your 2021 farm equipment needs. North Dakota-based Summers Manufacturing is currently offering early order savings. Take advantage of big savings on North America's broadest tillage line, including the Super Kohler Samurai and the innovative VRT Renegade, as well as the best built, best backed land rollers in the industry. Talk to your Summers dealer today or go to summersmfg.com to learn more about early order savings available on all Summers equipment.
Welcome back to Ladies of Another View. I'm back, and I came across something that fits perfectly with our theme of the show today.
Squirrels?
Hey, actually, there's a lot of stuff about squirrels on the internet, but that'll be for a future show. I came across a video of a flight attendant who was a good Samaritan on a flight where there was a baby that was crying, and the mother said, "I don't have any more formula for her," and she was crying because she was hungry. So let's take a look what this flight attendant did.
Right then and there, I approached the mother and tried to ask if she can see the baby. Teary-eyed, she answered that she ran out of formula milk. As a mother, you can just imagine the emotional chaos the mother must have been going through. So as a fellow mom, I would really like to help. I don't really consider myself as the act extraordinary. You know, it's just an act of a fellow mom helping another mom.
That's heartwarming.
Isn't that amazing?
Oh
It's
my
beautiful.
gosh.
So we don't need to just talk about breastfeeding during this segment. I think that we are often confronted with situations where we can stick our neck out, go the extra mile, and so often in those situations we go, should I say something or shouldn't I? And because we don't want to seem like we're being too forward or pushy or doing something that's not socially acceptable. But what a blessing that flight attendant was to that poor mom. We've all had little children, and can you imagine them crying because they're hungry and we didn't have anything to give them?
Yeah. Oh my gosh, I love that so much. You know, it's reminded me that it's the little things in life that matter. Sometimes we focus on the big things, but that woman saw this need and she stepped in and filled it. And you know, I remember when I had little kids, you know, we didn't have a lot of money raising little kids. We got started early, but there was a woman who saw my son wearing sandals and they were completely falling apart, and she went and bought a new pair. And at the time, I felt kind of embarrassed because I couldn't buy these new shoes that my son needed. But I was so grateful, and you know, we just need to notice things and then take action. And now that I'm older, I recognize, you know, we're all at different places in our lives, and that woman was at a better place than I was. She was significantly older. She had more resources, and yeah, just take note and do good.
Well, one thing I would say is watching that video, I'm like, stewardess aren't like that anymore, because I've done some flying and they have turned into Nazis with the mask stuff. I don't know.
There's still good people
I've
out
seen,
there.
I know, but from my experience, it's like, what happened to all my nice stewardesses? It's like, you know, it's just been a crazy experience. But I have an interesting story, because when one of my daughters had a baby, and she quit breastfeeding, and I didn't want to offend her, but I'm a huge advocate of breastfeeding, and this child lost her color. She looked so unhealthy when she put her on the bottle, you know, and I said, could I buy breast milk for her? And so I put an ad in the paper, and they wouldn't even let me run the ad. for looking for breast milk, and it ran all over South Dakota. I got women, and I did a very extensive, like I wanted to know everything about them, medical records, everything. But I had like 4 ladies selling me breast milk.
Wow.
That's
Yeah,
cool.
and we did that for about.
There's a side business for
so
There's a
people.
register for
Yeah,
that.
there
yeah,
is.
Okay,
but
so
I
you
didn't
can do
want it.
that.
I didn't want it heated like from a bank.
Okay.
But from all over, people were selling me breast milk, and it was. I have some great friends now.
Okay,
because of
wow,
it.
that's
Yeah.
interesting.
I thought you were
know.
going to say I'm storing breast milk right now.
Well, and not everybody. There are reasons. I do know some people that were not able to nurse.
Right,
And so,
right.
and they had very healthy babies.
Yes. Well, I was happy
so-
that my daughter wasn't offended, that I offered, because we could financially do it. Yeah. So.
Right.
We have a viewer out
We have a viewer out there.
If the camera can go over to the window.
Oh, that's
Yeah,
too
but
bad.
you can't.
out
Yeah, we've
there.
got somebody with a sign that says, "Hi, Mom."
Yeah.
It's so sweet. If you guys ever want to come up, we do have a bank of windows here. You can come up and visit us anytime. Give us
Yeah.
a topic. Just
Yeah.
poke in.
Yeah.
It's just kind of neat. But getting back to what you said, Kendi, it's like, I think it's just good if we're going to get through this next 4 years, and we will.
Yeah.
We will. This is not the end of the world. But let's just be kind to each other in that sense. Pick up where others have left off in that sense, where just if you see a good deed, do that good deed, but don't boast about it afterwards in the sense where, like I did this, and that yesterday. You have to do these acts of kindness in
secret.
In secret, absolutely, and it goes that much farther. We're here to share stories, and so that's why we're sharing stories. I'm not saying anything about that.
Right.
I'm saying just on a day-to-day basis, just
Right.
help others. If you see something, just jump in and do it, and don't expect anything back in return.
Right. You
And
will
that's-
get something back just by
You
doing
will.
it.
Oh,
It's-
absolutely.
You can't give without receiving, and we have like 30 seconds left. Any more final thoughts, or were those our final thoughts? Just to look for opportunities. Look for opportunities.
Just pay
Jump
life
in.
forward. You know, just in anything and everything you can do, whether it's a child or an adult or an elderly person. It doesn't have to be an
Right.
organized situation. It can
Absolutely. Yeah.
Just be kind and help others.
Yeah, just
Shine
look
your
for
light.
those. Yeah.
Do unto others.
So, okay, thank you for joining us today, and we hope you'll be back tomorrow with Ladies of Another View on Back. And down the road with Joel Heitkamp is coming up next.